Hi guys, I'm Ksenia. Welcome to my channel St.Petersburg-me, and today I'm making a video with an update of the situation with COVID in Russia. So without further ado, let's get started. And here is a little disclaimer. I don't want to say that Russian government is the only government that messed up the COVID situation, and I don't want to tell that Russian government is the worst government ever, but I know that this situation is a non-standard situation, so pretty much every country messed up with COVID situation. So I don't have a name to scold Russian government for poor managing of this situation. So guys, please mind it when you watch this video. I'm just describing the situation in Russia. First of all, I have to mention that in Russia we didn't have quarantine or lockdowns. In Russia we had 2 months of self-isolation. They were April and May 2020, and why is that? Why we didn't have quarantine or lockdown? That's because lockdown and quarantine are the force majeure situations, and in such a case government has to pay to people who got in a very difficult situation because of this force majeure. Our government didn't want to pay people directly, so that's why we had self-isolation, and employers were obliged to pay salaries to their employees even if they didn't work. So that is the situation with quarantine in Russia. So at first I was thinking that our government would take care of people, at least of those who are in need. I mean extremely poor people, elderly people, and people who lost their jobs. But it was a mistake of me. At first our government sent specialists and airplanes with aid to Italy, who had a very difficult situation in March with a COVID death toll. I don't support that decision because an average Russian citizen is a poor citizen, and I think that Russia is not the country to help other people with the tax that people within Russia are paying. So I don't support that decision, but I think that our government quickly realized that it was not the best decision, and we didn't have airplanes of aid sent to other countries anymore because we didn't manage to cope with the situation within the country, not speaking about aid to other countries and worldwide. And that was a better decision. So guys, if you live in Italy, I'm sorry for my words. That is my opinion. I like you as a nation, but we have a lot of problems here within the country, except for problems with pandemic, and those problems have to be solved right now. They even had to be solved yesterday, but they are not. So I think helping other countries with COVID is not a Russian prerogative. It's not the thing that our country must do. And now let's talk about the aid that people got from the state. Okay, only people with children got direct money from the government, and people with children under 3 years old got 5,000 rubles per child in April, May, and June. And people who have children from 3 to 16 years old got 10,000 ruble per child, but it was a one-time payment. And in December, before the new year, Mr. Putin ordered to give people who had children 5,000 rubles as a present for New Year. And you know, guys, pretty much that's it. And I know that school children in some regions of Russia, such as Moscow, St. Petersburg, Yaroslavl, Nizhny Novgorod, they got help as food, sets of food in April and May. So that set of food contained juice, tea, macaroni, flour, then buckwheat or rice, and condensed milk. And so my colleagues said that package, that box of food was like a real good box. It was a heavy box. It contained some other food, but I cannot name it. I just don't know. So about the other regions of Russia, unfortunately, I didn't find the information. So children in St. Petersburg and some other regions got some food packages from the state, and that is very nice, I suppose. Now about the aid for people who lost their jobs. The minimum aid during the pandemic was 1,500 rubles. The maximum aid was 12,130 rubles. The allowance rate depends on the average salary that a person used to earn on their last workplace and when they lost their job. For example, if you lost your job in May 2020 and you apply for aid in December 2020, your allowance will be minimum. So if your salary was 16,173 rubles, you will get 12,130 rubles allowance during the first 3 months after you lost your job. But if your salary was 40,000 rubles, you would still get 12,130 rubles. And after that, if you will not find a job, you will get 0 rubles. This agency that you apply for allowance when you lose your job also helps to find you a job. So maybe people have more chances to find a job with this agency. I hope so. Aid to businesses. So the government made a list of industries that were badly affected by COVID situation, and most of small and middle-sized businesses didn't get into this list, thus didn't get any aid from the state. The aid to the companies and businesses that got into this list was tax-determined, loan holidays, rent payment holidays if the premises that you rent is belongs to the state, and government paid money for businesses so that they were able to pay salaries to their employees. And I know about the situations when businesses got money for salaries but didn't pay salaries to their employees. So guys, I don't know how to react to such cases. As a result of the fact that people were left alone with COVID, we got the situation that most people were not afraid of COVID. They were afraid of being broke and not able to buy food for their families. So people who lost their jobs had to look for a new job, like food delivery, goods delivery, or something like that. And those people who didn't lose their jobs, they had to go to offices not to lose their jobs. So many people had to use public transport to get to their jobs every day. Now the pandemic isn't over and our transport looks like this during rush hours. Don't you think that in this way COVID and other viruses like transmit much quicker? And now I'll tell you how our medical system used to cope with COVID during this pandemic. So we were allowed to work from home in April and May 2020, and in the mid of June our employer asked us to return to office for work. So that was the time when my colleagues started falling ill with COVID, and that was the time when we understood how our medical system treated people who were ill with COVID, and how our statistics worked during this pandemic. In Russia we have two systems of healthcare. This is state-free healthcare and private medical insurance, which you have to pay or your employer pays for you. So if you fall ill with COVID and you call to a free state clinic and the doctor diagnoses you with COVID, you need to confirm this diagnosis by taking a test. And this is free. And our government don't want to spend money on our people, so that's why our doctors in many cases didn't diagnose people with COVID. Instead, they diagnosed people with flu. And you know, flu is the disease that is not typical for Russian summer. So no doubts, many cases that were rejected as COVID were COVID cases. So some people took COVID tests at private clinics at their expense, at their own expense, and they were confirmed that they had COVID. And when people brought their positive COVID test to their doctors from free state clinics, they still refuse to change their diagnosis from flu to COVID, not to spoil the beautiful statistic. Now about the COVID death toll. So you know that people die from COVID all over the world, and people die of COVID in Russia too. Not all the death cases got into the statistics. For example, if a person had some chronic disease such as diabetes, lungs disease, or poor heart, their relatives got a death certificate where it was specified that the reason of death was not COVID but their chronic disease. So that's why those people who actually died of COVID were not included to the official statistics. As a result, we are having 358,000 excessive deaths in 2020 compared to 2019 death toll, and 358 excessive death cases is way more than the average. And the official statistics that government gives to the news specifies that 97,400 people died of COVID as of today. The population of Russia is 146 million people. Besides, we had a big problem with hospitals during the pandemic. They were not able to take all the ill people. And before the pandemic, our healthcare ministry held an optimizational program. According to this program, they closed many medical facilities in villages and remote places and dismissed a lot of medical staff. This optimization program was held to increase the salaries of those medical medical staff who remained in the system. So when the pandemic broke out, we just had faced the problem of lack of medical staff and medical facilities. As for me, I haven't been ill with COVID after the pandemic started in March 2020, but what is strange to me is that I fell ill with some unusual disease and I had all the symptoms of COVID-19 in October 2019. For almost a week I couldn't subdue the fever. I took 3 or even 4 fever reducing medicines, but nothing worked. My chest hurt and I was coughing very badly. And what the most strange thing for me at that time was that my nose wasn't blocked, but at the same time I couldn't feel smells and I couldn't feel the taste of food. And at that time I didn't think that it was COVID because nobody knew anything of COVID at that time. I just thought it was a cold, some unusual cold. And now I remember that after I recovered, my chest hurt for 2 more months. And then in February 2020, I fell ill again and I had all the COVID symptoms, but for the nose. So I was able to smell and to taste food, but all the other symptoms were the symptoms of COVID, and my chest was hurting so much that my relatives got really afraid of my health, of me getting a pneumonia. So they just forced me to go to doctors, and when the doctor came, they took me to the hospital, and it was in like viruses hospital, or what do you call it, infectionist hospital or something like that. And they have 2 buildings, a very old one and a new one. And guys, let's play a game. Which building do you think they took me to? Of course, they took me to an old building, and it looks like this. Very beautiful place. And I spent there 4 days, and each day I was asking my doctor to let me go because I didn't want to spend my time there. So I felt much better there, and just on the fourth day of staying there, my doctor said okay, go away. So I don't emergency car. Wow. So after 4 days, my doctor let me go, and I rushed away from that place. So that was my first experience of getting to a hospital in St. Petersburg. Not very pleasant though. And now let me say a few words about vaccination. So the vaccination isn't very popular in Russia right now, though our Russian vaccine Sputnik-V was launched the first in the world, and a Lancet journal says that it proves its efficiency. Russians don't get in a hurry to get vaccinated. As of today, 4 million people got the first and the second dose of the vaccine, and thus making 2.7% of Russian population vaccinated, and that is not very much. I don't know why the situation with vaccination is like this in Russia. As for me, I don't want to get vaccinated because I don't trust COVID vaccines at all. Not just Russian, but the ones that are made worldwide. I just have a lot of questions, and the answers that I get doesn't sound like truth to me. And guys, don't get me wrong, I don't trust the vaccines, but at the same time, I don't believe that somebody is settling a new world order, or somebody wants us to be slaves, or anything like that. I don't believe in secret world's government or something like that. I don't believe in conspiracy theories. So I just want this vaccine to be tested properly and not on me. And I must say that vaccination is free in Russia, but still people are very reluctant to make the vaccine injection.
Петербургский пианист и виртуоз, композитор Александр Маслов написал джазовую сюиту «Великий гость». Встречайте джазовое трио.
Please give your comments on the situation with COVID-19 in your country. What is the situation with vaccination in your country? How do you feel about COVID? So give your comments. I will be interested to know your opinion. So that's pretty much everything that I wanted to share with you on COVID situation in Russia in 2021. So thank you for watching. Stay tuned and see you in the next video. Bye guys.